I'm Dominic. Welcome. This is going to be part 2 of Tektronix 2465A DV oscilloscope repair. And so what I thought I would do is just discuss 40-year-old X and Y RIFA caps in these scopes. And I've just had this for a long time, and I keep using it, and it seems like kind of minor repair. My first video I talked about some issues I had with it, but it's being repaired, and so this is my little adventure. In the earlier video I mentioned where to get the service manual for this thing. Basically you can go to archive.org, type in 2465 SVC, and it will take you right to this service manual. The schematic is on page 260. And so the sun symbols, they point to where the RIFA caps can be found. And I'll mention with the red asterisk here, the series resistors with the two X2 caps. There would be a reason to change those as well. On page 256, you can see the board illustration for the A2, A3 power supply boards. And I've marked there too where you can find the 5 RIFA caps and also the 2 series resistors. Now the C1020, that's the one you will have trouble finding. It's hiding behind a transistor, and it's just below a thermal shutoff switch. So it's kind of embedded back behind there. It's a little bit hard to get to. It wasn't actually very easy to desolder either. So a bit tricky, but manageable. I went through that in the first video. So in this video I'm just going to talk about what I discovered in investigating these caps and looking at their fate. So the C1016 is the first we'll take up here, and if you just see it from the top, it looks dated. It basically discoloration, that kind of thing, but no obvious cracks. When you desolder it, this picture on the bottom left, yeah, you can see through because it's transparent, so you can see right into the capacitor to see what it actually looks like. And what you see is some light color discoloration where you could suspect maybe it's oxidized, but it's also corrugated. Now these usually have a little bit of striation, but this looks bumpy, irregular, bumpy, and corrugated, where you sense there's some damage inside there. Now I'd also mentioned that this scope is actually working, so I'm pulling off caps that were actually working inside this scope. Okay, and so in the middle pictures here, you see the front and the back sides here and the corners, and what's noticeable is there are these creases with these pigeon foot cracks that go all the way around the capacitor. Now if you do any long distance ice skating, you know when you see these kind of cracks, it's a very weak surface. When you're standing on top of that, you know you're going to fall through the ice. So that to me, it's a clear indication that this thing is ready to explode and it's completely burn up, fall apart. And the pictures on the all the way to the right here, you can see the cracks are clearly also on both sides. So literally they were like a volcano ready to blow its top. Now here's the C1018 that led to all these repairs, and the inside of the cap, it was filled with like very thin shredded paper, but also I guess some kind of conductive metal, and it looks very oxidized, but it also was a source of a metallic conductive thin film aluminum foil like material that basically went all over the oscilloscope, which is the reason why it was I needed to do some pretty extensive cleaning. So it's worth it to remove the caps so you don't have to go through that horrible cleanup job afterwards. And the close-up picture on the right here, this is a component that just kind of came off, but it wasn't actually damaged during the explosion. I think it was actually like that before this cap blew out. And what you notice here is this foil-like appearance here. There's creases through it, but you'll notice these big gaping holes. So these things weren't just like cracked, they were actually exposed to the outside air, including the humidity of that outside air. Now here's the R1018, which is in series with the C1018. And I believe that these things were in there where part of their function was to act like a fuse. So if the C1018 blows out catastrophically, this becomes a fuse. And so I would point to two things about these caps. It's obviously this one's badly damaged. Most of the damage is actually the bigger picture on the right here, which is underneath the resistor. So the top part of the resistor doesn't look terribly bad. There's still some paint on there, but the bottom side here is completely wasted. And that's also some kind of conductive material that went all over the scope. Now, these resistors, importantly, these are carbon composition, and that might be important because these won't have much inductance compared to like metal film and some other types of resistors. And that might be important for the function of this exact resistor. And it's about 0.5 watt. And so I know people are tempted to put in like a modern, super expensive metal film cap at 2 watts or whatever, but I think that might be a mistake. I think it should be carbon composition to deal with the mains surges issues, and that these are better at handling. And also because the lower wattage here means it can actually work as a fuse. So if you're an engineer, you know electronics, well, great. Please comment on that. I'd love to hear from you, but I think maybe my interpretation, I've hit roughly the right note. So, the Y caps. Well, tops on those also look fine. They're smaller, harder to see. These are USB microscope images. The squares are 5 millimeters. But there too, if I look carefully, there's these creases across the surface that go right around them. So these are like little volcanoes as well. They're ready to blow their tops. And on the upper right image, just next to the CV1, you can see that foil-like appearance. If I really kind of zoom in on that, I can see it's got a hole through it. Very difficult to take a picture of with a USB microscope, but yeah, that's got a hole in it. And here's the other Y cap, similar deal. You can, if you look very carefully, you can see the crow's feet, but there's a shear tear around the entire perimeter of the of this cap. And then finally there's the C1052. That's the 0.01 microfarad RIFA. That one you can clearly see cracks all over the top, front, back, both sides. And if I zoom in closely, it's a little more like a phase contrast effect. You can see just how spread out the cracks are. They're just everywhere. So this one also was ready to explode. So these were all caps that were in the scope while it was working. And I happen to have some 40-year-old caps. I thought one day I might need to replace these caps. So I actually had a collection of these old RIFA caps where they've never been used. And so 5 of these 6 picks, the ones that are not in the red block, these are the unused caps. And you can see the front, the back sides, the tops. There's not a single crack anywhere. If I look underneath, I took 2 examples here. You can see the striations, but there's no big bumpiness. There's no like 2 types of colors to it. It's just nice smooth surface on both of these. If you look at the original cap, the one in the red box here, you can see how it looks like it has 2 different colors to it. It looks like some kind of oxidation perhaps, and it's heavily corrugated and uneven bumps. Like it's seen a lot of abuse. So old versus new, you can tell from just looking underneath them right through the plastic. Okay, so I went ahead and just made some measurements of these caps, and okay, if you're a professional engineer, you've got your flashy equipment, great. I used cheap stuff that anyone could use, and so that raises some questions. These are mains voltage caps. I used for the measurements, the numbers I'm going to show. I guess I'm obliged to tell you how I made the measurements. I used a Joyet LCR T7 dirt cheap meter. The issue with these caps is that here in Sweden, for instance, we have 230 volts AC, so that's going to be about 325 volts DC. There's an issue about dielectric absorption where you can discharge the cap and you come back just a few seconds later and the voltage is no longer 0. Now, the manual for these meters, they specify they can read batteries up to about 4.5 volts. But of course, these aren't batteries, and therein lies a problem. For a capacitor, the voltage is going to have to be well below 500 millivolts. Okay, lengthy discussion, but basically, caps have discharge, which will ruin that meter. There's something about the wiring that goes straight to the integrated circuit microcontroller that does all the measurements, and you'll ruin it. So you have to have a lot more than 6 taus of that time constant, and you've got to be really severely discharged. Let's say 99.9%. So I built a protective discharge, an air gap circuit. And that could maybe be a subject for another video, but the point is, when it goes into that meter, it reads 0 millivolts stably over time. And then, as for the leakage current, okay, I also use a cheap device. I use the Unity UT33D multimeter. That's about the cheapest one they have as far as I know. And I use a 150 volt DC power supply. Maybe not the best choice for these caps, but that's what I had available, so I used that. And I have a 1 mega ohm series resistor on the cap. Now, these meters, they have a 3 gigaohm input impedance on the millivolt setting, which means that it's not going to act as a voltage divider. And so with a 1 mega ohm resistor, it's pretty linear. So in the millivolt setting, you measure across the that 1 mega ohm resistor, 1 millivolt will equal 1 nanoamp. Pretty straightforward. But how do these play out in terms of numbers? Ta-da. So I've got them all lined up, the original versus the new. And so with the LCR meter, what I find is across the board, the old caps are considerably higher than their stated values. One can discuss, especially in light of the pictures I just showed you, how it came to be like that. Probably humidity and oxidation had something to do with that. The new caps, if anything, they read slightly lower, but basically none of these caps are reading like super bizarre values. They're actually caps where it's not obvious anything is wrong. If you look at the VLOS and the ESR, there are no readings. So can't really make use of that. But that dirt cheap leakage current measurement with that 1 mega ohm resistor on the cheap meter that you probably already have, in every single case, there were nanoamp readings well above 70 nanoamps. So, okay, we could discuss exact details about how exactly to calibrate that kind of thing. Maybe these are not the exact correct nanoamp readings. They probably aren't, but there's a clear separation between the old 40-year-old caps that clearly needed to be replaced and the brand new ones that replaced them. Now, those new caps, they were actually put into service for a short time before reading, so this isn't just a brand new cap thing where they're not broken in. So there's massive difference seen there. Okay, so conclusions. These 40-year-old RIFA caps, for sure, microscopic inspection reveals volcanoes ready to erupt. Capacitance is usually above the stated value by quite a bit, pretty close to 50% higher than you might have expected in some cases. The VLOS and the ESR that you get from the LCR meters won't get you very far. But that dirt cheap trick with the multimeter and a 1 mega ohm resistor, it's going to show consistently across the board leakage currents that are greater than 70 nanoamps, which is fairly easy to measure. And with that, some acknowledgments, because I spent my career in academia where we're supposed to do that, and there really is some great people out there. So EEV blog, absolutely brilliant. KISS Analog, also quite brilliant. That guy actually knows the Tekscope, this particular one, apparently. There's eTech Tom, W2AEW, the Tech Genie, Zen Wizard, Studios, the IMSE guy, Mr. Lupak's Electronics Rescue, who has also some excellent videos repairing scopes right now. We had some interesting exchanges, suggestions from him. Mr. Carlson's Lab, who's just all-around genius. Very enjoyable videos, highly recommended. And many other people. There's some great people in here. Finally, there's also Facebook. There's old Tekscopes with some brilliant people in there as well. With that, I'm just going to end this video, and next time there might be a more regular video instead of a presentation. Okay, bye.